part of the event here. So I wanted to give a shout out to our planning committee, which includes Dawn Brown, Faye Wilson, Christina Bird, Paige Matney, Kay Kramer, Terry Fisher, Angie Keshak, Amy Kirkbride, Lori Ward, Ann Meyer, Marianne Guthrie, and Chris Comden. And I can tell by reading that list that that was a powerhouse. So I know that this had to be an incredible conference. I apologize for not being able to join you on a few days earlier. I was on a scheduled vacation. And so, but thrilled to be here with you today. I know that we also had, did you have another slide for me too?
Yes.
Know that we also wanted to thank our TERSA members for joining us for the conference this year, for any of them that were able to join us. And so putting this together is no easy feat. And I know Shalise and our whole LOD group and our planning team probably made it look pretty easy and seamless, but I'm always amazed and impressed at the final product. And so very grateful for the work that you're all doing to put together something as important as this. I believe that lifelong learning is one of the most important things that we have going on. And we look at ourselves in Extension as a learning organization. I know that I'm continually reading, listening to podcasts, working with mentors myself and others to make sure that I continue to develop. And I know that that's such an important part of who we are and how we continue to develop ourselves and our organization in a way that really matters. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time to I don't know how many days you got to participate. I'm hoping all, but at least some of those days for this incredible conference and all that we can learn from it. So again, thanks to our planning team and to those that have joined us for TERSA. I'm really excited about joining you this afternoon. Wanted to spend a bit of time with you and let you know how very much I appreciate you and what each of you brings to the organization and to our mission and extension. As support staff, your skills and the positivity that you bring, the institutional knowledge that you have, the customer orientation, and the local leadership that you have always exhibited has been an important part of our success. But I think your work over this last year and a half has been absolutely extraordinary. So think about it. You've been the foundation of a strong extension program, the house that was built on rock and not on shifting sand. And for whatever reason, the old fairy tale came to my mind about the three little pigs and the big bad wolf. So work with me here. But that wolf did everything in his power to blow down the little pigs' houses. But the pigs banded together and they found that their house with a strong foundation held true. I feel like the pandemic has been like the big bad wolf for us, huffing and puffing and trying to do any level of damage this last year and a half. But you were like the house that was made of bricks, and it persisted. It held strong throughout the storm. And I think that has a lot to do with, again, the strength that you all bring to this organization. And I wanted to talk about some of those pillars that I think resonated for me as I'm reading David Horsager's book, The Trusted Leader. And as you all remember, we made sure that everybody had a copy of that. And I hope that you're engaging in that and thinking about what that means for you in the context of being a trusted leader. Because I see, as I've said before, leadership really is at every level and in every one of our roles in extension. And I think the work that you do and the way that you do it plays a big part in how we're trusted in our communities, within this organization, and with one another. And so I wanted to just highlight a few of the pillars that drive results today, because I think they're extremely relevant to what makes the work that you do so foundational for our success. And the ones I wanted to focus on, including consistency, compassion, contribution, competency, and connection. And I don't know, could we take just a quick second? And I'm not trying to like call anybody out, but if you maybe can just raise your hand or give a thumbs up if you've gotten the book and started to work through it a little bit. And it's okay if you haven't, but I'd like you to really start thinking about that between now and annual conference, because these are really pillars that I think we already have to some extent, but how can we actually even strengthen some of our pillars? So I wanted to highlight some of the ones that I think I'm looking forward to both of those things, ones that we already have, but that we can also continue to work on over the next few years. And so the first pillar that I want to talk about was consistency. And I think our roles demand and our clientele benefit from consistency, knowing that they can engage with us and be certain of getting an answer to their questions that they have, being able to access the resources that they need, help with identifying possible solutions to the questions and issues that they're facing, and a consistent focus on customer experience. So they know when they reach out to Extension and they arrive in our care, that they can count on a positive and valuable interaction that leads them to seeking us out in the future. And I just really want to give a shout out to the role that you have, because I know in so many instances, you're that first person that they see. You're that individual that they know that they can count on for identifying the resources that are needed, getting answers to questions that you would never imagine come in. I remember Michelle Moon's first day. I don't know if Michelle was on the session here, but I remember she had a lady come in with a box, and it was an older woman with a box. And she placed it on the desk, and she asked Michelle not to open it. I hope I'm not embarrassing you here, Michelle, but the story sticks with me. And in that box was something that she was really concerned about. And she didn't want Michelle to open it. She wanted her to go get the men to open it up, because there was something in there that she wanted to have taken care of, and she didn't know what it was. So Michelle, this is a great example of customer experience, walked across the hallway. This is in Carroll County, got the soil and water folks, brought them over, and they opened the box, right? And because one of her needs was safety and security for herself and for Michelle at that point in time. And they opened the box, and in it was an insect. And but she had thought that it was an alien. And so part of obviously what she was going through was a bit of dementia and a concern that she needed to have solved. And two things struck me on that. One was the compassion that was shown to really focus on what that need was, even though it wasn't typically in our wheelhouse, and to bring some sense of knowledge and calm to her in that research aspect of here's what it really is and what you can do about it. But then also it struck me that if somebody had a problem, even like that, the first place they thought about coming was the Extension office. And the first experience that they had was with our support staff. And I think I could think of hundreds and hundreds of examples. Angie Keshak, I know that you're probably on here as well. And I can remember spending a day in Columbiana County. And we got a phone call about the 10,000 cankers issue related to trees. Well, I can tell you what I know about 10,000 cankers situation with trees, and it is absolutely just the title of it after having heard it, nothing more. And Angie, again, same way, we're not experts in that, but she went out of her way and identified somebody at the state who could actually answer that, and found a fact sheet that went along with it and a phone number that this individual could call that's within our organization. And the point I'm trying to make is people know, and they've talked over the centuries about when they have a question, when they have a concern, when they have a need, they reach out to, and they used to call it the Extension, and come and see us. And that consistency is really incredibly important. And I know that you do that well, and it's so very, very valued. Another pillar that I think resonates is compassion. And we make sure that people feel appreciated and understood. We have a true compassion for enhancing the quality of their lives. That's what our land grant mission is. And sometimes that compassion is shown up as something as simple as a genuine smile and an offer to assist an individual. Sometimes that compassion shows up in how we treat one another and those that we serve, when sometimes we may least want to or are needing some compassion ourselves, but we do show up and we do offer that out. And compassion means really seeing people, seeing them, and not just hearing them, but seeing them, valuing what matters to them, and finding little ways to show that you care and want to support them in their journey. And I see that so often, and I know it's a reality across our state, the different compassion that we're sharing as individuals, many of you, both within our own offices, for the individuals that come in, and within our communities. And that compassion matters. Another one is contribution. And we all have unique ways that we contribute to the organization's success. We don't all come with the same skill set. We come with different understandings, different experiences, different resources and knowledge. When we consider what we can give to the situation at hand, an individual, the teams that we're on, the communities that we live in, we strengthen our own impact, and we strengthen the impact of Extension. And I know that, again, with those contributions and those unique things that we own individually, that we can share globally, we make a difference. In the book by David Harsager, he wrote, imagine each action you made like a stone cast into a big pond. It ripples and radiates out in all directions, going everywhere, touching everything and affecting everyone. And I often think, how do we shift from thinking about the stone to thinking about the ripple and extension? And when we come in each day, how do we sift through this really long to-do list that never seems to get shorter and think about the difference-making actions that can make the most important contributions? What are the difference-making actions each day that we can do that make the most important contributions? And once again, I think you all personify that. There's clearly things that are on your list that you want to get accomplished each day that you come in, but oftentimes in that act of support and in that act of serving our clientele, those things sometimes feel like they go by the wayside and we just, have this unending list of things to do. But I think the difference that you make in the actions that you take as people come in and seek out our assistance and our support go a really, really long way to be less of a stone thrown into a pond and more of a ripple, because it makes a difference in their lives. And then they take that out and they make a difference in others. Another area or pillar that I think is really relevant is competency. And as I mentioned earlier, in Extension, we're lifelong learners. We invest our time and our energy into developing ourselves so that we can best serve our clientele. And we do this in a variety of ways, and each one of us does this maybe a little bit differently. But oftentimes it's through reading, attending trainings, shadowing others who have more experience, sharing our competencies with one another, and mentoring or being mentored. And it doesn't stop as a new employee after a few years. I'm 20 years plus into this, and I'm still trying to do each one of these things because we are a learning organization. And it's critical that we continually assess what skills we need and how we can acquire those skills. And you've all committed to the support staff conference trainings, the annual conference sessions, and I hope that each year that you're thinking about various annual goals for your own professional development and thinking about how we can help support that. But I've been so incredibly impressed, especially during COVID, with how you've reached out to one another to share your competencies across county lines and within your offices. And that's made a huge difference in supporting one another and in sharing that knowledge that we wouldn't have without that expansion and that sharing. And finally, connection. At our annual conference last year, we talked about connect before context. And I thought about that a great deal this last year. How can we connect with one another? How can we spend time on building and maintaining relationships with our colleagues and with our clientele? And how do we find time to connect with family, friends, and nature is a huge additional connection I hope we're making time for. And I know that you're already the connectors in your offices, your teams, and often with the community. The way you greet, assist, solve, and engage creates these strong threads that weave a lasting connection that stands the test of time and the test of change. There's already so many examples of how each of you personifies these pillars in your daily work, and throughout this last year, this very challenging last year and a half, it's been obvious to me that we live these things. You bring these pillars to life and you create a strong foundation that can be counted on to weather any storm. And I thank you really from the bottom of my heart for your commitment to collaborative leadership, relationship building, and the experience our customers have each and every time we interact. Times remain challenging, however, and I know that COVID fatigue, COVID compassion fatigue, balancing work life and reaching our audiences via hybrid programming will continue to require our time and attention to ensure that we meet the needs of our extension families and those that we serve. And I want you to know that we're committed as leadership to listening and acting in ways that will continue to make this journey as an organization less challenging, hopefully, and ultimately more positive and able to stand the test of change, because change is not over with. Change continues, and we have to be prepared for that. So I wanted to focus a minute or two on the fact that you spoke and we heard some things from you. And as we've gone through our strategic planning, our listening sessions, our program reviews, some of our different surveys that we've done, we asked about things that were important for moving our organization forward. And we're not done with that yet. We're still very much in the throes of finalizing our strategic planning. But you spoke about a variety of things, including the return to office survey and the work-life balance and our diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew and can trust that we're not just hearing those things, but we want to act on those. And so when you talked, you said there was a need for more flexibility in work arrangements and a chance to adjust in the transition back to offices, for instance, or a chance to protect lunches, vacations, sick days, deep work time. We have implemented flexible work arrangement options and provided expectations, resources, and training for transitioning back to the offices. And hopefully sharing some expectations and some best practices and strategies for protecting our work-life balance. And these flexible work arrangements are intended to include everyone in Extension. So it's not just educators or it's not just administrators. Really, these flexible work arrangements are clearly intended for every professional in Extension. And that includes professional scheduling, if we can achieve that with communication and collaboration where we are. We are, even in a time of economic constraints, addressing compression and inequity in salaries. And we'll continue to do that as we work through this next year. So as you recall, in the last year or so, we've had the increase to our minimum wage. We've been looking at addressing the initial compression related to that and are working on addressing additional compression as we come out of this last year of COVID, so that we don't have any remaining inequity in salary. And that we're making sure that we have a really useful, livable wage for all of our employees. And then we're also working with HR via the Career Road Mapping Initiative to design what we call a career path for our support staff over the life of your careers. So we're working hard to really pay attention to having, for instance, an entry level. And I don't know if some of you have been with us long enough to remember when we had some different stages of career pathing and the titles that we had available to us and things like that. So that's our goal, is to really add, through the Career Road Mapping Initiative, opportunities for increased responsibilities and pay over time for all of our positions. We're also working hard to create processes and products that make the work that you do easier and provide you with some ready-made marketing and educational materials and resources to share with our clientele. So there's many things that we're doing now and considering for the future as we complete our strategic planning process that are aimed at attracting, developing, retaining, and valuing our support staff and the entire Extension organization. And it won't happen overnight, but we're listening and acting to ensure that a healthy future for Extension occurs for those who work here. I do want to share a few slides if I can. To give a few more examples, and we're going to be sharing these on the roadshow. So I apologize to those of you who are going to see it more than once, but I thought it was important to share here as well. So when you asked about things or you've spoken as an organization or individuals, some of the things that we've actually done related to people. And if you'll see on the right-hand side, we have really our framework for looking at our strategic plan and thinking about our future for Extension. And it's really all based around our values, as you can see in the center there. And then we really focus on people, programs, partnerships, and processes to figure out how we want to invest in impacts, both by way of our human and our fiscal capital. And so some of the things that we've done related to the area of people include a real focus on some professional development. And obviously, we've done onboarding and mentoring training, as well as telework training. And our mentoring program are all big examples of that over this last 2 years. We've done health and safety precautions and the ability to physically distance as we moved our way back into offices. We took some time to transition back into our offices. So a lot of people actually, when COVID began in March of 2020, were back in their offices full time as early as April and May of that same year. And we really gave ourselves about a year to transition by way of increased density that made sense over time to get back to the offices, and thinking about those needed accommodations as related to kind of things like childcare, caring for others, or health issues. We've also identified additional flexibility in work arrangements. And so I want to keep mentioning these because I want everybody to remember that we have these, but we have to do them in the context of the jobs and roles that we have. the spaces where our offices are and the needs within the community as well as the unit. But please remember that we've got professional scheduling made available through compressed work week options, staggered start and stop times in different office spaces, telework options with everybody in the organization having at least one day, if not 2 days a week, remote option, again, if the unit or the community needs are met. And I've also really spoken about the importance of protecting your lunches and blocks of deep work time. So thinking about, for instance, if you're working on finances, do you have some time blocked out where you're able to really focus on this for a certain amount of time? If there's a project that needs to be done, how do we make sure within our offices, everybody's got a little bit of that time to block that out and not have constant interruptions? Clear expectations for the number of hours worked each week and permission to say no to things if that makes sense, or if you're saying yes to things, what other things might be let go. And certainly the encouragement to take vacation and sick days and protect those on your calendars. And that should be done again. I think that gets done best when you work within your units and you think proactively about who wants to take vacation when, so that everybody gets a chance to enjoy those days. We've also highlighted our EAP programs. And so we're going to be adding some additional things related to hot topics and really focusing on what are some of those EAP resources that we might not be taking advantage of. And I think yesterday was one of those examples of having a seminar or a session from our EAP that really focuses on some of the key needs that we have in a relevant time frame for that. And we're also going to be working with our Buckeye Wellness Innovators and thinking about having county level ambassadors like we had, gosh, it's been like 6 or 8 years, but we had one in every county. So we could think about what does wellness look like locally and what are some of the ways that we can bring some of those resources to life where we work. We also are focusing on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we're designing, we have a vision statement that's been provided by our team for cabinet to look at, and we're finalizing that. We're going to be putting up a website related to some of the trainings, the resources related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as our vision statement and mission statement there. We're really focusing on attracting, hiring, and retaining diverse talent. So I hope that you all, when you see positions open, will really help us identify some key new employees and colleagues that will diversify the talent that we have. And then we're also ensuring that our urban needs are considered and supported. And we just had Urban Ohio it's Urban October, I call it Urban Ohio. So it was the Urban Ohio Summit for Urban October. And we just in Mahoning Valley distributed 185,000 meals to those that were food insecure just this last week, for instance. We also have diversity, equity, and inclusion professional development and skill building and trainings that are being offered. And then we're also working on some positioning and messaging for expanding our audiences and supporting a broader range of individuals and partners and participants across the state. As it relates to processes, we have increased communication. So you know that we've been doing a lot as it relates to our news and notes, for instance, which is biweekly, and our directors' videos, as well as our ADs have been holding program area regular conversations at least monthly. And I'm not sure if we've gotten to the point where we have some consistent, maybe Shalice can remind me, but I know that we were also looking at doing a regular monthly opportunity for our support staff to come together and share ideas and receive professional development and have some check-ins. We're also doing our branding. So you saw our extension mark and logo, and our templates are being developed around those. And we've been working really hard on streamlining reporting systems and then working on some of the operations pieces like related to Workday, Clearly, and career road mapping. As it relates to programs and products, obviously we've been doing a lot with Zoom, Teams, and Outlook. And so you've had a lot of experience working with Zoom this year. I'm sure all of us have become much more efficient at Teams as well. And so we'll be doing some additional training and support in those areas. And then hiring of talent for our program and product development. So you'll see we've got new faces in LOD over the last year. We're also going to be hiring some additional support for video production and instructional design. And we've completed our program review and began implementing some of the recommendations that were identified for that. We also have been working on recognition and support of our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, including an annual award for that. And then we've been identifying an opportunity to take a lot of the work that's done by our extension educators and translate those into an online non-credit course for individuals to take. So it's not just based on whether an educator can fit so many hours in of doing these different types of educational components themselves, but how do we get real-time on-demand opportunities for non-credit courses across the state. And then for partnerships, we've been really working on getting our advisory councils back up. And so a few of you are actually participating in the Extension Advisory Council. We also have gotten our State Extension Advisory Council and our Extension Partnership Council up and going again. And then we also have been working very closely with our departments in our College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences to make sure that we're really re-engaging and over in EHE2 with our state specialists. And then we're trying to have our administration as accessible as possible. So you might have seen some of us participating in some of the staff meetings across the state. I'd like to get out and about over the next year. And Lori, watch out. I want to try to hit all 88 counties in the next 365 days, if at all possible. And we're starting with some of that through our road shows here in the next, that we started last week and are working on through the end of November. And then we sought and strengthened program and funding partners. And so that's been really helpful in offsetting some of the, we keep talking about the fact that we have our really excellent cooperative between our commissioners, our state and our federal governments who help support the work that we do in extension. But we can't just always assume that we're going to have that, that funding grow as relates to what have been very stable but not growing local, state, and federal dollars. So we've been really focusing on building new partnerships and identifying additional opportunities for funding by way of grants and endowments and things like that. And that's been really, really successful. So these are the things that we've been doing that we've heard were needed and have been working on. So I wanted to just bring those to your attention in case you hadn't, it's hard to put all of those in one place where people see them, know that they're happening. And so you might not even be aware of some of the things that have been going on. And I just wanted to be able to share that. So we've been through many challenges this last nearly 2 years. And I keep thinking about how we left in March of 2020. And I think we even put in the email that, take enough work home with you to get you through 3 weeks. And here we are 19 months later, and we're still really working on getting on the other side of this pandemic. But I think even with these challenges, Extension's always been blessed with amazing professionals who really understand the mission and keep it in the forefront. And we found lots of ways to innovate, adjust, lead, and I think succeed through this pandemic. And I know that we're going to emerge from this even stronger and more resilient than probably ever before. And a lot of that really comes back to the grit and commitment that all of you have for the work that we do and the difference that we make in people's lives. Your role in particular in Extension is key. You're truly the foundation that holds this organization steady. You keep the gears of Extension moving slowly, you extend the knowledge, and you personify the mission of Extension in all that you do. And you inspire me each and every day to create a living, breathing, compassionate, and committed organization. So I want to thank you all for being excellent stewards of Extension, and I want you to have a great rest of your day. If you have any additional questions for me and you want to put those in the chat room, I'm happy to stay a few minutes and answer any questions.
And while people are gathering questions, if they have any, I want to thank Jackie for spending time with us today and giving her remarks. I hope they resonate with you and you're able to utilize them and know that you are appreciated. I know I appreciate you all. I hope that resonated with you well today. And before we close, I did also want to share with you our Extension Annual Conference promo video. This year we decided to do something a little different. And I kind of wanted to make it a little fun or a little at least enjoyable to watch instead of the emails that say register today. I know you're tired of emails. So, so I have a video that I did want to showcase, and you'll probably see this video a couple times throughout the month as we do our road shows and any other updates or anything, but I did want to showcase that to you. So
Lisa, as you're pulling that up, I don't see a lot of questions in the chat. And I know sometimes it's hard to think about what to put in a chat or if you want to put it out there, but if you have any questions or any comments, again, always open to listening and hearing what your ideas are, both your concerns and your solutions. So feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. If you don't have it on hand, it's wilkins.201. Feel free to contact me at any time. But thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do. And I'm not saying it lightly. You are the foundation of this organization. And without all of you and the work that you're doing, the work of the land grant would not be accomplished in the way that it's accomplished. So I don't underestimate that value. And I hope that you know that we truly treasure you all.
Sorry, I have all my emails. I had it up and ready. My apologies.
Thanks once again to our planning committee. Wow, I'm always impressed. And this, I've seen this video, so I'm excited to see it again. I know you're gonna love it.
All righty. Well, let me make sure I am sharing. Yes, okay. All right.
I love that picture at the end. That was such a good
Yeah.
time. I can't wait till we're all back together again.
I know, I'm excited for that as well. All right, well, that closes out our conference. Again, I will let you know when our sessions are, the recorded sessions are uploaded to the YouTube site. And then also I will be sending a evaluation for yesterday and today and my closing email. So look out for that one as well. But without further ado, that's it. Thank you for a great conference this year. And I hope to look forward to seeing you guys next year in person.